meeting of the Georgia Board of Education. For those of you that are joining us online, welcome. This is our committee meeting day. I will now entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss student disciplinary matters, personnel, and pending litigation.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Kennemore, second by Mr. Downey. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion carries. We will adjourn to the executive conference room. Those of you who are in the audience joining us, we should be back out here by 12:30. Thank you. We're in recess.
You probably picked up on that. Those people have no idea.
Julie, if there's anybody left back there in the executive conference room, could you ask them to join us? And then I will entertain a motion to exit executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Downey,
Second.
second by Mr. Ellis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anybody online? Mr. Donaldson? All right.
Not opposed.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are now out of executive session and, gonna wait just 1 minute for our budget committee chair to get back in here. I'll tell you what, while we're waiting, we have a lot of guests in the audience today. I'm gonna call on one of our regular visitors to our state board meetings, Dr. Claire Buck. Dr. Buck is the Executive Director of the Georgia Association Curriculum and Instructional Supervision. And she's got a big group with us. So, Dr. Buck, introduce your guest, would you please?
Thank you, Chairman DeJarnett. And Dr. Aldridge, would you please come and join me at the podium? Thank you, Stan, for the opportunity to recognize some of our guests. You all may not be aware, but Dr. Aldridge and her team and GASIS have a very strong relationship, and we work very closely together. And one of the things that we are doing, and we've continued to ramp it up a little bit each year, but we provide support for new curriculum directors. And we meet with them throughout the year. We have, and the way that we define new curriculum director is somebody that is in the role 3 years or less. And we meet with them throughout the year, pretty much every month. Some of them are in person, some of them are virtual. But April and I are really thrilled that we had about 85 that signed up and have been participating in our program this year. And today is a first. We met with them this morning and had lunch across over in the West Tower and kind of gave them a sneak peek at the State Board of Education, who the members are, what you do, and the appointments and all of that interesting information. And then they're coming to the board meeting today. Many have not been to a state board meeting, but they have watched your virtual meetings. And so following this meeting, we're going to take them across the street to the Capitol for a tour so that they have a day of kind of seeing how things work down in Atlanta. I'm not going to recognize all of you all individually for time's sake, but new curriculum directors, as we affectionately call our NCDs, would you please stand to be recognized? Thank you so much. And they all did their homework so that they know who their state board member is. So hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end for them to introduce themselves. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Buck, Dr. Aldridge. Welcome, NCDs. Once upon a time, I was an NCD, so I feel your pain. I understand where you are right now, and we appreciate the work you're doing. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Benton, our Budget Committee Chairman, for Budget Committee. Mr. Benton, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Russ, thank you for your presence as always. And I'll turn it over to you for item number 1.
All right, item 1 is a contract amendment for Georgia Milestones. This contract amendment is necessary to ensure the updated ELA item bank is sufficient to support the new ELA assessments in alignment with the new K-12 English Language Arts and allowing for printing of additional Braille test forms. The amount of the amendment is $473,014, which brings the total contract to $26,835,549.
Thank you, Russ. Got a question for Ms. Lisa?
I have a question. The increase in the compensation amount, I just wanted to find out, is that just for the Braille, or whatever?
I think it's for Braille and updating for the ELA standards, the new standards.
Also, how many students, can you give me a number of how many students that that we have who require Braille for the test?
I don't have that number today, but I will certainly get it.
Okay, because I was trying to find out how many students we have and what was the estimate that you made and what is the true number that is needed.
I will certainly get you these numbers. This one is challenging because this is a different kind of Braille. It's
Okay.
called UEB Braille.
Mm-hmm.
We don't teach that in Georgia, but it's possible that students move to Georgia only reading this kind of Braille, so
Okay.
we've started to provide it. Initially, we only, I believe, printed 3 or 4 books per grade level, and demand has started to exceed that. So that's we're looking to increase printing to have it available should students move here and need that type of Braille.
Okay, and I also saw that there is a paper pencil also available, not just online. Is the test just online or looking at the
Yes, Georgia Milestones is a fully online assessment system, but we do maintain a small amount of paper for students with disabilities who require that as an accommodation because they can't interact with the computer.
okay, do they have to have a 504 or IEP in order to
They
do
do.
that, or is it
Yes.
by request of a
It has to
parent
be
or
part of their IEP
it has to be
plan.
part of IEP? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kimora. Anyone else? All right, thank you. Item number 2.
Item 2 is a grant amendment for our FY25 Federal High School Program Grants for CTAE. This grant utilizes the FY24 carryover amount of Perkins federal funds to provide assistance for program improvement in CTAE instruction and student support. The amount of the amendment is $750,695, which brings the total grant amount not to exceed $22,760,050.
Thank you, Russ. Any questions? All right, item number 3.
Item 3 is a grant amendment for our FY25 Individuals with Disabilities Education Act funding for students with disability. This is for new and expanding charters adjustment. The IDEA grant provides LEAs with supplemental funding to support the additional cost of educating students with disabilities as defined in the IDEA. The amount of the grant amendment is $534,543, which brings the total grant amount not to exceed $382,728,701.
Thank you very much. Questions? Okay, item number 4.
Item number 4 is a grant for a paraprofessional to teacher reimbursement grant. The paraprofessional to teacher reimbursement grant is intended to support the recruitment of teachers and LEAs and the Georgia Network for Educational and Therapeutic Supports programs by providing financial support to paraprofessionals completing their teaching certification through the Georgia TAP program. The total grant amount is not to exceed $905,000.
Ms. Lisa.
I have a question. April, Dr. Aldridge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have a question regarding this. With the state schools, I know that's something that we've been talking about with the parapros being able to move into full teaching certification. Is this something that is offered to them as well, or is there something different that they can get into that will help them go through a program like this?
This grant is available to any paraprofessional who's employed in one of our school districts. They already have to hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and so this grant is a reimbursement grant that will reimburse them up to the $5,000. So if they are employed, the teacher of record, then they can apply for this grant. There are some other opportunities, but this one is specifically that they have to have that bachelor's degree or higher and be employed as the teacher of record.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Item number 5.
Item number 5 is a contract renewal. This is our FY '25 Dell Computer Corporation. This is our Microsoft licensing. This contract will allow the agency to continue the use of Microsoft products currently licensed to support data center operations and productivity applications used by our staff. The total contract amount is not to exceed $933,442.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Any discussion or items for 6?
Is there any questions? Be happy to answer.
Alright. Like for item 7.
Any questions or concerns?
Okay.
I'm glad to see that the Smarter Than a Fifth Grader funding is going to go to help the school for the deaf to go to Texas. I think it's going to be an awesome opportunity, and I'm glad that those funds are being funneled down for them to do that. And I just want to show appreciation for the Georgia Foundation for Public Education for their oversight and fiduciary responsibilities for this money, especially for our state schools to help them.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right. Recommend that items 1 through 7 be moved to the consent agenda, Mr. Chair. That concludes the budget committee.
Thank you. So items 1 through 7 will be placed on the consent agenda for tomorrow's meeting, without objection. All right, thank you, Mr. Benton, very much. I think we're within our timeline. I'm gonna call on Mr. Griffin, to start our Rules Committee.
Yes, sir.
Please, Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 7 items on the agenda today for Rules Committee. Ms. Taylor's there, so I'll get her to start with item number 1, that's an adoption of new state board rules.
Good afternoon. Item number 1 is request to adopt State Board Rule 160-5-4-.15, processing of plans and specifications for public school construction. This rule is being amended to add the requirement that local boards of education consult with their local law enforcement agency or local emergency management agency prior to receiving final approval of plans or specifications for new school construction. This amendment fits seamlessly with current approval requirements for school planning and construction. School system architectural plans for new school construction will not need approval by local law enforcement or emergency management agencies, but ensuring this consultation is designed to foster proactive collaboration on school safety between these critical local partners. At its December 2024 meeting, the State Board approved the initiation of this rule to be posted for public review and comment, and it has been posted for at least 30 days.
Any questions, any comments? Yes, ma'am.
How many comments did you get regarding this particular rule?
We did not receive any comments for this rule.
Interesting.
Mr. Downey?
That was the same question I had.
Okay.
You beat me to it.
Great.
Ms. Fennell, did you get your questions answered?
I do have a question, but I do have one I'd like to pose. Adding the law enforcement, being that the intent is to provide collaboration between law enforcement and the local districts, have we spoken to local law enforcement and let them aware of that, or whose responsibility is that once this rule is passed?
So we will share guidance with our local school districts and the personnel that work in the facilities and constructions portions of the school districts on different options for collaborating with local law enforcement or their local emergency management agency, and that may look a little different in each district in terms of how they do that, but we provide at least guidance and support for that.
In the process of this, have we consulted with law enforcement? Are they aware that this exists? Has there been any discussion that is this going to be a surprise to them?
So I don't think it would be a surprise to them. Right now, for instance, we had conversations with GEMA Right now, they have a requirement that's in law that they essentially review school safety plans. And so one of the things they were saying to us as we were developing it was making sure that we don't make it a mandate of their review, because they're already reviewing all of the school safety plans, and that would be maybe an additional burden that they wouldn't necessarily meet. In speaking with them as well, making sure that this is about collaboration, again, and not making a requirement on local law enforcement or emergency management agencies, so that it doesn't seem like we are forcing them into some sort of liability, but really focused around fostering that collaboration so that they can give us their lens and their view.
Thank you.
Is there, excuse me, Mr. Griffin?
Yes, sir.
Is there like gonna be a checklist?
Yes, it goes along with the checklist that there currently is, so it'll be in addition to the current checklist that they have, that schools have for their new construction documents.
I just wanna make sure that, cause I know we talked about this last month, that this is all about coordination and collaboration. We're not shifting the authority for approving school architectural designs to the local law enforcement agency. But we do want them engaged in the discussion about best practices and things like that. So I want to make sure that as we message this, I think the intent of the rule is laudable, and I think that there's a lot that we can gain. And I think we all have heard from districts that these kinds of conversations are already going on. And we just like to make that a standard rather than a happenstance. So, but I do want to make sure that we're in our messaging as that goes forward in the regulatory guidance, that we just keep focus on coordination and collaboration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any other comments? As this is a rule adoption, I'll be pulled for a separate vote.
That is correct.
All right, item number 2.
Item number 2 is a request to bring a rule for initiation. If approved, this rule will be posted for at least 30 days for public review and comments. House Bill 318 from the 2024 legislative session amended the Official Code of Georgia annotated section 20-2-262D and added 2 new subsections related to low wealth capital outlay grants to local school systems and criteria for eligibility. Rule 160-5-4-.05, regular advance and low wealth funding, is being amended to increase the low wealth calculation eligibility to include being ranked in the bottom 25% of sales tax revenues and the bottom 25% of value of property per FTE during any of the 3 most recently completed school years, to add a building age factor for consolidations, to add in the ability of the Department of Education to determine and remove systems from the project-specific low wealth calculation consideration if the system's system-wide eligible need has been met, and add the ability to prioritize eligible local school systems with lesser amounts of SPLOST revenues if available funds are not sufficient to cover the full amount of capital outlay grant, and adds definitions and pre-K for capital outlay program participation. If approved, this rule will be posted for at least 30 days for public review and comment.
Any comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 3.
Item number 3 is a request to bring a rule for initiation. If approved, the rule will be posted for at least 30 days for public review and comment. Senate Bill 233 from the 2024 session amended Official Code of Georgia annotated section 20-2-265BM relating to capital outlay funds and the addition of voluntary pre-K programs provided by the local school system. Rule 160-5-4-.04, special appropriation for public school capital outlay, is being amended to add definitions and add pre-K for capital outlay program participation. If approved, this rule will be posted for at least 30 days for public review and comment.
Any comments or questions from the board?
I think that's good.
All right, item number 4.
Item number 4 is also a request to bring a rule for initiation, which means if approved, it will be posted for at least 30 days for public review and comment. Again, Senate Bill 233, amended the official code of Georgia annotated, section 20-2-260, 5EM, relating to capital outlay funds and the addition of voluntary pre-K programs. We're also amending Rule 160-5-4-.08, school size, to add definitions and add pre-K for capital outlay program participation.
Questions or comments from the board? On item number 5.
Item number 5 is another request to bring a rule for initiation. House Bill 606 from the 2021 legislative session amended the official code of Georgia annotated, section 20-3-519, so as to add the Georgia Independent School Association to the list of accrediting agencies for private schools. Rule 160-5-1-.34, Georgia Special Needs Scholarship Program, is being amended to modify the definition of private school in accordance with the updated definition in law. If approved, this rule will be posted for at least 30 days for public review and comment.
Any comments or questions from the board? Item number 6.
Item number 6 is a request to bring a rule for initiation. If approved, the rule will be posted for at least 30 days for public review and comment. Rule 160-4-2-.05, middle school program criteria, is being amended to add the requirement that any school with a middle school program shall offer a middle school advanced mathematics pathway. This amendment provides information on student qualifications for automatic enrollment into the middle school advanced mathematics pathway and required information that must be provided to students and their parents and guardians about middle school mathematics course options. The rule is also being amended to add computer science to the list of connections courses provided in schools with a middle school program. If approved, this rule will be posted for at least 30 days for public review and comment.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I know we're trying to get out of the head of the curve on this, because this is, there's some conversation about this nationally. Can you provide a little more detail about not just the what we're going to do, but the why?
I'll let Dr. April Aldridge.
This proposed rule change would just really help us to look at being able to really open up the access and availability of advanced mathematics content at the middle school level. So in the wording of this, it would allow an automatic placement into that during the middle school level, which would again work with our new math standards. I should stop calling them new because they're not new anymore. We're actually in our second year of full implementation. But what it currently gives students the opportunity to be placed into that enhanced algebra concepts and connections course. And then what that allows students to do is if they participate in that, let's say in the 8th grade year, they move into geometry and advanced algebra after that, opens up those last 2 years of their high school career to engage in higher level mathematics courses that fit within whatever their academic or career and technical pathway might be.
And just for clarification, this is for kids, they will take the high school milestones. So again, this is what gives them that ability to take more math at a high school level. So I mean, a lot of this is going on throughout the state, but you know, we definitely want to make sure that all of our kids have that opportunity if they are ready to move on and have that. So again, that's just, again, clarification of this is what these kids are doing. They're taking up really the high school algebra course.
That is also at the discretion of the parent and
Yes,
guardian.
yes, yeah, this, like I said, it's, they're being enrolled, but again, it's an opt-out.
Correct.
They don't feel they're ready, or they may not want to go down that path, so.
This is fantastic because we focus so much on literacy, which is important, but we would never say a kid's not a reading kid, but we let kids say they're not math kids. And we need to be able to focus on this because if they have the inclination to do advanced math and want to do that, they got to do it while they're young. If they wait too long, it's a language that's harder to learn as time goes on. So I'm very excited to see this in here.
So again, the big advantage is that you know, there are options for high school math is that they can take the calculus, the trig, and some of these, you know, which again, for 4 years, it's really hard to squeeze all of that in. So if you're going medical, engineering, it gives you a much better breadth of
Is the, as my reading of this proposed rule, it's silent on the, I think, unless I skipped it, on the Carnegie unit credits issue. Is that a local? I mean, if you're taking algebra in the 7th or 8th grade, is it at the discretion of the local level that they offer Carnegie unit credit for that, or?
It doesn't change the unit credit, it just changes the opportunity of what courses a student can take. So in 9th grade, instead of starting with advanced algebra, instead of starting with algebra concepts and connections, they would start with a higher degree level of mathematics instruction, so it opened them up. Lots of different pathways. They could take geometry, advanced algebra, perhaps pre-calculus, calculus. Maybe they could take calculus, statistics.
So it doesn't reduce the number of
It
courses
doesn't
they
reduce the
take in
full
high school.
requirements. It just changes the flexibility and what those course selections can be based on based on student interest, student, achievement, those kind of things.
Well, never been through this. What I think parents and schools don't want to see happen is that they complete all of their 4 Carnegie unit credits in math by the end of their sophomore year, and then don't have to take math for their last 2 years of high school, and that's not a desirable outcome. But I also know that most of these kids that are choosing this path are doing it so they can take the higher level math or dual enrollment or something like that their junior and senior year. But I did notice that it's silent on how we award credit. So my question again is, are you going to leave that to the local district about whether they want to award credit or not? I'm all in favor of the pathway. I'm not questioning that. I'm just asking about the credit awarding side of it. Are we going to leave that silent in this rule and leave that option to the local district?
They're gonna get the Carnegie unit.
So I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, if they're taking the high school level course in middle school, they would receive the high school level credit for the course. Because they would have to take the EOC for instance, if they're taking algebra, or the enhanced algebra course in middle school.
All right.
and that's only taken in 8th grade.
Correct.
Any other questions, comments?
No, I think it's great. And this is, we're putting this out for public comment, correct?
That's correct.
Any other comments, questions? Item number 7.
Item number 7 is a request to approve a RESA change for Camden County School System from the Okefenokee RESA to First District RESA. The Official Code of Georgia annotated Section 20-2-270 authorized the State Board of Education to establish the service area of the state and requires each local education agency located within the designated geographical area to be members of that RESA. Camden County Schools was originally assigned to First District RESA, but they requested a change to Okefenokee RESA in 2020 due to the location being much closer for their system. Since that change, First District RESA has opened an office in Glenn County, which gives Camden County closer access to the services they need and places them in the original RESA geographical area. The Okefenokee RESA and First District RESA Boards of Control have both approved this change request.
Any questions, comments from the board? Hearing none, I do believe if I'm correct, rule initiations can in fact go to the consent agenda.
Yes.
I failed to ask if there was anyone that wanted to pull any of those items for a separate vote, other than item number 1, which has to be pulled for a separate vote. Is there anyone that wants to pull any of the remaining items? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, pull item 1 for a separate vote and submit items 2 through 7 to the consent agenda tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's 1:15. We're by statute, we're not allowed to begin our district flexibility meeting until 1:30 as scheduled, in case there's somebody waiting online to log in. So we will recess until 1:30 and just a few minutes.
I just find that simply more than.
Well,
those of you in the audience, both here in person and also virtually, I want to take this opportunity to welcome, before we begin our district flexibility and charter committee meeting, I think everybody here and I think everybody online probably has noticed that there are some new board members present today. The state board service spans a term that is 7 years. And we had a couple of board members whose terms expired back in December. And we're going to give them their due recognition in March after we've had a chance to collect some things, because we lost a lot of intellectual capital and a lot of commitment with the board members that departed. And we'll celebrate them in March. But I do want to introduce to you in a more informal way, because they officially haven't been sworn in yet, but they're already in their seats. Our new District 3 board member is Ms. Christy Garrett from Carrollton, Georgia. And our new District 5 board member is Ms. Melanie Stockwell from DeKalb County. And we welcome both of you, and we'll go into a lot more detail later, and I know there's a swearing-in ceremony that comes later on. We're really, really glad to have both of you with us, and I think you're going to find this very meaningful. I know you're going to love the people that you're working with, because this is a wonderful board with very committed, passionate folks that bring a lot to the table, and I think you're already seeing that. But just me personally, as the chair, it's my pleasure to welcome both of you here. Thanks for your willingness to take this responsibility on. None of us take it lightly, and I know you won't either. I'm going to call on Ms. Martha Zoller, who is the vice chair of the District Flexibility and Charter Committee. And Ms. Zoller, the floor is yours.
Yes, and I also want to welcome Christy. I love Carrollton, but especially I want to welcome Melanie, as I'm an old DeKalb County girl. I went to Columbia High School and Columbia Elementary School, so it's great to have you on the board serving, and great to have you on the board serving. Thank you. So for the District and Flexibility and Charter Schools Committee, we have 3 items. So the first item.
Item number 1 is a request to approve the superintendent appointment for the Zone 4 Completion Special School. The Official Code of Georgia Annotated, Section 20-2-2096.5, which was House Bill 87 from the 2023 legislative session, requires the State Board of Education to appoint a superintendent for each completion special school upon consideration of one or more recommendations from the state school superintendent and such school's governing board. The governing board of the Zone 4 Completion Special School voted to recommend Mr. David McCurry to serve as the superintendent of the Zone 4 Completion Special School for a 1-year term. Mr. McCurry is the former superintendent of Chattahoochee County Schools and a former Georgia High School principal.
Any discussion? Yes, Ms. Kennemore?
Dr. Taylor, I have a question regarding the completion special school. Is there any way that we could get Dr. Curtis Jones to come to give us more information about the completion schools and exactly what they are, for not just the new board members, but for all of us to get a complete understanding of exactly what is going on with those schools?
Yes, we can get him. I'll check his schedule. I'll meet him, check his schedule, see when he can be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Forgot what I was going to ask. What about Mr. McCurry? The Zone 4, can you give us a sense about who's Zone 4 and where it is?
Yes, Zone 4 comprises of West Georgia RESA and Chattahoochee Flint RESA service areas.
So it's those 2 regions.
Any other questions or comments, discussion? With without objection, we'll move that over to the consent agenda. Item 2.
Item number 2, I'll transfer or send over to Mr. Donovan McHead or Alan Mueller with the State Charter Schools Commission.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Tiffany. I just want to say Happy New Year, everybody. I'm glad to be here, and welcome to the new state board members. Look forward to working with you. My name is Donovan Head. I'm the Executive Director for the State Charter Schools Commission. Chairman DeJarna just asked me to give a little bit of a quick overview before I hand it over to my colleague, Alan Mueller, for the items. So our office is the statewide authorizer for charter schools. There's just over 100 charter schools throughout the state of Georgia. Of those, we have 53. 48 are currently operating, and then we've got a few more that are coming on in the fall. We always give the locals the first right of refusal. We're going through right now our petition process, and so we're hopeful that we actually get some local. We feel really good about a few of the districts that we're hearing some local charter school petitions approved. We've gone 6 years without any, so that's where we're hoping to kind of share the load here. Some of the board members, we really appreciate that you came out to visit Atlanta Classical Academy a couple months ago. I thought that was a great visit, and we'd love to take any of you to charter schools in your district. I think just about everyone has charter schools in their district. This past session, House Bill 318 moved from Godot, the Office of Charter School Compliance, over to our office. So not only are the state authorizer, but we house, and we try to keep a good firewall there, but we house the Office of Charter Schools Compliance, which oversees the local authorization of charter schools, making sure everyone is following rules and regulations on that front. And so far it's been going well. We're working with Godot and OPB and the folks over in the legislature to make sure that's smooth. And I'd be remiss not to say that our Teacher of the Year here is a former charter school teacher, so we're proud to be represented on that front. Was there anything else you wanted me to cover? Okay. And I'll hand it over to Alan, who's got a few items.
Thanks, Donovan. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so I have a couple general updates, and I have 2 items. I suppose I should probably start with the items.
We're discussing item 2 right now,
Okay,
which is, yeah.
is this
Tybee Island.
Tybee Island? Okay, sure, you bet. Okay, so Tybee Island Maritime Academy, this is a locally approved charter school in Savannah-Chatham County. They've already gone through the Savannah-Chatham County process and have been recommended for a 5-year renewal by Chatham. Savannah County then, as you know, after they go through the local process, they come to us, and we also apply rigor. We look at both the application generally and at their performance and their plan, but we also look at the job that Savannah-Chatham County did as an authorizer. That's also part of our responsibility. So again, Savannah-Chatham has been through local, had been through our process. Also, the Charter Advisory Committee, which is the body we ask them to recommend as well. So they're an appointed body that provides a recommendation. They have also provided a recommendation to approve Tybee Island for the 5-year renewal. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I did provide some information. You'll see that as part of our renewal process, we did have 4 issues that came up during our part of the process. I included this in the clarification letter that I gave to you, so you can see some of the things that we asked them to work through in a little more detail. For example, and some of these things they changed between the writing of the application and the interview, and that often happens because, again, they've already been through the local process, and that often spurs a little change. For example, when we looked at the petition, I can't recall right now, but it was 15 board members. It was a lot of board members, more than perhaps you'd think would be very manageable. And by the time we met with them, they'd already changed their bylaws, and it was down to 7 minimum, 11 maximum. So you'll see that in the response, which we were comfortable with. There was an audit finding, which you see in the letter I provided. They've addressed. It mostly had to do with switching service providers for financial services, and we wanted to make sure they were following the ELL exit process. And the last thing we were concerned about was their facilities situation, because they are full to the rafters at TEMA, that's their acronym. And so we wanted to make sure that they had a number of different options for expansion and just for kind of keeping up with the demand. So you'll see, again, I provided all that to you so you can see that detail. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer, but we also have some folks from the school on the line, right? So we have the board chair of Tybee Island, that's Brigitte Van Balen. We have their principal, Peter Ulrich, and we also have Laura Solomon, who's the director of growth and planning. We've also made sure to include the charter liaison from Savannah County. So this is the Savannah County liaison, a person who works with charter schools. That's Shakiria Smith. So they're all online and can also answer questions.
Great, welcome. Any comments that you all would like to make, or do we have any questions for the people that are online?
And I'm sure you all know that Tybee Island is a much beloved school. They've been around for a long time, and they have such a specific focus on maritime issues. It's tied into their location. They really do a great job of working with their community. I'm just greasing the wheels here, hopefully. But you know, they do a wonderful job and very focused and very interesting area.
Well, and thank you for all the preparation you submitted. We
You bet.
appreciate that very much. Any questions or comments? Yes.
How many students do they have? How many students?
Let's see. Let's have them answer that. It's on the board item.
150.
Yeah, thank you. 450. And they're not planning on growing because they can't grow anymore in the facility they're in. So that will have to do with whether or not they're able to expand. There are two things I guess I should point out of note related to this. The first is that they have been in talks with their school district, with Savannah Chatham, about replicating or expanding. Those talks haven't been concluded yet, but they've been having those discussions. One other thing which we find exciting is that Savannah Chatham has agreed to include TEMA and 2 other schools in East Blast. So that money is not going to go, as far as TEMA is concerned, it's not going to go for their facilities specifically. It's more about technology and improving things. But that's extremely unusual. It's only happened a few other times. And in this case, it's particularly worth marking or noting because the district does not own TEMA's facility. So they're willing to put them on their East Plus with assurances, that money is going to stay serving kids. But we found that was notable.
Anything else? Questions?
If there's any comments that the folks that are joining us would like to make, this would be a good time to do it.
Hi, folks. Peter Ulrich. I'm the school leader here at TEMA. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve, and we're very excited about our partnership with Savannah Chatham. They have been a really great partner for us as we have looked at replication as well as some of our facilities needs.
Well, without objection, we'll move that to the consent agenda. We have the third item.
Yes, thank you. The third item is for Kendesi Charter School. It's a request for a contract extension. Now, Kendesi, that's 2 schools, both under one contract, so they're related. They're 2 schools in Atlanta Public Schools in different geographical areas within the district. They are up for renewal this year. Now, again, they went through the Atlanta Public Schools process before they came to us. APS has a very robust process, and I included some information there so you can see what the board considered, what the board was presented with at APS. But what we're asking for, the reason they're asking for, not for renewal, but that this is moved to a 2-year extension, is because they have mixed results, number one. There's some good there, and there's some not so great there. There's stuff to work on. Now, normally there are 2 ways we can approach that kind of mixed story when we come to renewal. We could think about renewing them for a shorter term, but a 2-year charter school renewal, that's really not enough. That's just, they're going to have to start working almost immediately on their next renewal, which really burdens them under this sort of bureaucracy, and it kind of makes it difficult for them to really achieve. So that what we've done in the past is that provide an extension like this with very specific targets. So APS has granted them this extension. It's been approved by the APS board to work together with APS staff, and then also Stephanie Johnson and our folks from School Improvement will work with them too. The reason it's 2 years is because the schools are both on the TSI and the CSI lists. They have 2 years to get off of it. So if we gave them a renewal now, let's say we gave them a 5-year renewal, in 2 years, if they didn't get off the TSI, CSI, or CSI list, we'd have a problem, right? We'd have to end the contract early. So this just creates a neat point, the decision point that ends with the TSI, CSI issue, and then we can move to renewal after they've had that support and kind of shown that they need to do what they need to do. So I can answer questions about that. This is not a precedent. We've done this in the past for various reasons. I've also, though, Matt Underwood, who's the charter school liaison from APS, is on the line, and he can also answer questions about their thinking at the district level, if you like.
So that extension is, and then obviously if they don't meet these goals, then it'll be another conversation.
It'll be a whole nother conversation,
Okay.
and a very different conversation, yes.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the student count at this particular school?
You know, I should have, next time I'll memorize. Hey, Matt?
Yes.
What's the school
Hey,
count at
everyone.
Kendesi West and Kendesi Old Fourth Ward?
Each school has currently just under 400 students, so they've got about 750 total students.
That's a lot of students impacted.
Okay.
And you said they are working very closely with Dr. Johnson's?
Right, they'll be supported by school improvement, the way they support all those
Well,
schools
as
on
APS.
TSI and CSI, yeah.
Okay.
And then Matt, you all will be supporting them as well, right? And helping them move towards the goal? of
That's
getting
right,
to
yeah, they collaborate with our team in the Office of Charter Schools, but also receive support through the school turnaround department here at APS, since they're on the CSI and TSI list.
Any other comments?
Will there be regular updates with you as to their progress and all of the items that they need to attend to?
Absolutely, we can put that in, we can have that as part of our updates, and I'll make sure Matt lets me know how they're doing.
Because I just
And I'll
don't
show
want
that. You bet.
to hear in 2 years and.
That's right.
Sure.
And find out.
I should also provide the context that they've been very strong schools in the past. So this is a bit of a, I don't know if it's a blip exactly, but it's a bit of a shift. If you had schools that were historically lower performing, we'd probably do something different. But there's a little bit of, we're extending a little bit of grace here, and the district is too, with support.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Without any further discussion, we'll move this item to the consent agenda. So, Mr. Chairman, the 3 items that are on District Flexibility and Charter Schools Committee are moved to the consent agenda.
And if you don't mind, I just want to share 2 other things very quickly. So there's always a request for the pipeline. So I didn't get a chance to get it on technologically this time, but we're going to pass this around. And this will just give you a snapshot of where we are in the renewal, for all the renewals that are locally approved. And I've gone over this in previous meetings, but just real quick, I've included a few of the columns here. But you'll see in the second column over under petitioner, those are the schools that we'll see this year. And, Kendesi, we're just talking about right now, so those are being dealt with. Oglethorpe, you will see next month, that's on line 4. Line 5, you see now. And then we're waiting for the others. We have 1 DeKalb school, 2 Fulton schools, and I said Berry and a Clayton County school. Those are probably all going to hit us in March. We'll get those all. Everyone is ramping up right now. I've been talking to districts, and they're all coming up to local approval. So you'll see all those rolling up. As of right now, we have in the pipeline, I would say actively, the 2 Savannah Chatham schools and then these Kendesi schools. And then the last thing I wanted to say is, as you probably know, every year the Charter School Office is required to submit an annual report to the legislature and to the public at large. So it is a little bit delayed this year. We've been working with the Department of Education, and I think I mentioned this at our last meeting, but I wanted to say it for the new folks. What we're doing this year, rather than printing a PDF and killing trees or killing electronic trees or whatever, it's a dashboard. So they've created a drill down kind of dashboard. We've been meeting weekly to talk about it. It should go up either this week or beginning of next week, and we'll basically have pull-down menus for all the charter schools in the state with all of the CCRPI performance and then other demographic information. It's really neat. I was going to say it's cool. You can tell I have that. It's going to be a much more efficient way to kind of get at that information, going to allow us to share with a lot more people rather than just a big thick thing that no one wants to read. So look for that.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you for your
Thank you, Alan.
comments.
Any questions for Dr. Wheeler before we let him sit down? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Fowler?
Yeah, so this concludes the meeting of the District Flexibility Committee.
We'll be 3 in the deep end of the pool.
That's all right, I did all right.
She had 10 minutes heads up on that, so Mr. Sweeney couldn't be with us this afternoon. Just before we close, first of all, I want to thank the staff for getting this together. As all of you know, We're heading into a very busy season with the legislative session just getting started. Ms. Zoller has agreed to continue to be our legislative liaison and kind of keep up, as will the staff and policy at the department. But I want to make sure that the new board members are aware that this board functions as the State Board of Education. We are also the board for the state schools. So that's why we have personnel items and things like that for state schools. And we don't every month have a report from state schools, but we're gonna have frequent reports because it's really, one of our primary jobs is overseeing their operation and making sure that they get everything they need. So just be aware that you'll hear more about state schools as we move into the year. I think if you heard this morning, there was a lot of positive discussion about school safety items and some budgetary items. You also heard a little bit about some literacy legislation and literacy. And most of that is combining a couple of bills so that they're not in conflict with each other. We have a dyslexia bill, Senate Bill 48. And then we have a literacy bill, House Bill 538. And there's some language in those bills that don't always match, and so there's gonna be some effort made this year to do a cleanup to make sure that there's no gaps. And there's also some funding items for additional literacy coaches and things like that in the budget. This is coming from the Literacy Council side of things. And part of my job is to be on the executive committee of the Literacy Council, so we're keeping an eye on that. And you'll hear more about that as we move through. We're gonna talk a lot about literacy. We're gonna hear some reports during the session from Georgia Partnership, some other groups that you typically hear from, so that we can kind of stay in the know, stay ahead of the game. And because it's gonna be a busy term. But I think there's a lot of opportunity here, so. I want to thank all of you. Martha, yes?
Yeah, one more thing. Senator Kennedy has spoken a number of times, as well as last night on Lawmakers, about a bill he's going to introduce related to absenteeism. So that's going to be something that they're pushing. And then I know that everyone here's got great relationships with people in the legislature, so if you hear anything, don't assume that I know about it. So let me know if you hear something, and we'll try to be as comprehensive as we can.
I've updated our text thread today to reflect the new membership. All of you know that is accessible from a Freedom of Information or an open records request, but that's also a good way to keep us in the know if you hear something about legislation from one of your local delegates. It's a good thing to share with us, also make sure that the staff's aware as well. So, and also our relationship with the State Charter Schools Commission grows and continues to mature, and we appreciate that support. And, but are there any other comments you'd like to make, Lisa? Yes, our Reese's. I see Shannon over there representing West Georgia, and we have great representation, and they're a big part of the literacy equation as well, but they do a lot of other things, and our new members will get to hear a lot about that as we move through the orientation process.
And Governor's Office of Student Achievement.
Governor's Office of Student Achievement, yes, you're absolutely right. And we'll get a report from them on the milestones audits soon. Okay. Any comments, questions for the good of the order? All right, hearing none, we'll see everybody at 9 o'clock in the morning. We're adjourned.